for truth, right? Like what we hold to be true, different people have different methodologies and epistemologies, right? So when people say, oh, belief is blind faith or you abandon reason and rationale, that's not what belief, even though there's a definition that might imply that, that's not what belief means to everybody.
Let me help you out. So if I look up in the sky and I see a star through a telescope and my friend says, I believe that's a gas ball, what do you say to that?
I mean, if that's all it takes for them to believe that that's a gas ball is just looking at the sky, that's on them. I think that would be a weak position to hold because it's, you're not using any evidence but pure observation. So when it comes to belief, right? Hold on, dude. Hold on. Let me just explain my thought. Every time I try to explain my thought, you guys straw man my position. Just hear me out for a second, please. I'll try to be calm and relaxed. Listen, right? There's different types of justification for your beliefs, right? Belief doesn't mean you've abandoned reason, rationale, and wisdom, right? There's different approaches that you can take to acquire knowledge and different justifications. You can have different epistemological justifications, including empiricism and naturalism. That's perfectly fine. That's also a way to acquire knowledge, which you guys love. That's fine. I'm not in disagreement with that. But there's also theological justification, right? There's legal justification. You guys, so there's a whole list of justification for beliefs.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, what we're talking about when we're hammering on beliefs mainly is when we're talking to a globe believer who doesn't understand that his belief in the globe is a belief. So we have to hammer that point home. That's not to say that any belief that anyone holds is unjustified or unreasonable or stupid. You've maybe just heard it emphasized emphatically to a globe believer or something such. But no, I wouldn't say that any belief you hold is automatically dumb because it's a belief. But, I mean, the definition is acceptance without evidence, whether or not you want to define it that way or not, whether that is an accurate, well, I mean, that's the definition of the word as they've defined it. So, but we don't need to dwell on all that. Like, no one's attacking you.
I would love to. This is what I want to get into. Because you guys are using a specific definition. That's fine, bro. But if you actually go on Google right now and you type in belief if you type in belief, you're not going to get the same definition, dude.
Yeah, but it's
so we can go definition shopping, right? We can go definition shopping. And if you go definition shopping,
we don't really need to. It's not really an interesting conversation. Like epistemology and like the notion of belief. I mean, we're trying to stick to reality and like, showing people
not what you believe in. What you can
people is incorrect.
What you can prove.
You want to make knowledge claims, though. You're trying to make knowledge claims without talking about epistemology.
We know the Earth is flat. We know that part.
Yeah, but we don't want to be stuck in the meta about, you said I have a belief and I don't like that. I don't care. Like, we're just talking about what's tangible, what's empirical for now, and then we won't have that issue of personal philosophical differences.
Even knowledge claims, right? Based off of empiricism, you have to believe that the empirical framework is sound, that you carried out a sound experiment, that the people that you rely on carried out a sound experiment. Somewhere along the line, whether you like to admit it or not, you're going to have to make a leap of faith or a leap of logic based on reasoning. It's inevitable, dude. It's inevitable. Even the scientific process itself, hold on, bro. Even the scientific process itself is based off of philosophy, naturalism, and empiricism, right? And there's axioms within that philosophy that the laws of nature are consistent for all time, no matter if you're in China or if you're. There's certain axioms, bro. Even including the laws of logic are axiomatic.
You can get yourself down to all this. You can get yourself
I'm just wrong. Go ahead.
In reality, we can just go to a lake and observe, take observations, do measurements. That's what we're talking about. We don't have to get all sweaty about whether or not the lake is lying to us. I mean, you can if you want, but I mean, if you're not going with what's observed and measurable, whatever standard you rely on after that isn't going to be as strong. Even if you want to say the empirical framework of reality itself is somehow flawed as some kind of logical base of reason, which I don't know how you could argue, the alternative would be what? Just your fantasy, someone else's fantasy? Or, God, I don't know. But I mean, I don't really see why we need to get bogged down in all that. The lake's flat.
But natural laws are something that happen in nature, like always. Without exception.
Yeah, dude, I mean, if you just be chill, I'm sure you get on with everyone.
But you only come to that conclusion through testing, not through leaps of faith.
There was no natural laws. That's a lie. Just saying that, because you have to believe in a beginning to creation. So then, what's the natural laws involved?
Idiot guys. They use like a double team of like to fucking quibble reality.
So
no, I'm not trying to show you the way. I want to show you the way, the truth, and the life, so you can make knowledge claims.
So when it comes to
don't fucking condescend us now. You're saying there's no natural laws.
We can have a conversation.
No natural laws.
It's going a lot better than earlier. So when you say it's not about having no evidence, right? There's different types of evidence. There's a whole list of evidences, right? It's not only empirical evidence that's used to acquire knowledge, guys.
Well, that's okay. Well, I mean, Whether or not that's true, and you can give some examples, fine, but I don't really see what bearing or reputation that has to what we're talking about. We're not saying the only way to acquire knowledge is this way, but when we're talking about the geometric physical nature of the surface of the Earth, that is absolutely the best metric. So I don't know why you would even think to challenge that.
That's not my argument.
Right, well then we don't have an argument. So I don't know why.
I have no problem with measuring the topography of the Earth. That is the best way to establish a truth claim, so right? Is to actually physically measure, first order measurements, the topography of the Earth, the physical geometry of the Earth.
That's exactly the point that we're talking about.
No, that's still considered science.
If you want to, well, not if you're going to use the scientific method.
No, even the scientific method, because in science you have causal relationships, but you also have physical relationships. It's not everything's about cause and effect. So when I establish, and demonstrate the property of the Earth, i.e., it being topographically planar, I'm establishing a property, not what causes that flatness.
Then you don't need a hypothesis in that case.
Yeah, I
don't need a hypothesis, then it's not science.
Yes, it is. My hypothesis, based off water being level and seeking its level, and the horizon being flat, that the Earth must also be flat. And I can carry out an experiment to test that hypothesis with controlled variables, independent variables. It's very much a scientific experiment. Hold on, I'm almost done, dude. I'm almost done, and then you can rebuttal. No, dude, I was still talking. Listen, bro. All right, go ahead, dude. You're just gonna take the mic. You're gonna steal the mic from me every time. Go ahead.
Yeah, because you fucking.
I'm trying to be concise and fast.
We already corrected this. I did. Water is level is a phenomenological claim. It's not a geometric claim, dude.
Regardless of whether it's moving, right, and seeking its level, or it's at rest, right, in an inertial state. The fact is, the phenomena of water being leveled is a natural phenomena on the Earth. Now, you can be pedantic. You can be saying, it's, whatever, it's a phenomena or not. To me, it's a natural phenomenon, dude.
That's you. So this is what we're arguing with. Your subjective opinions about the definitions of things, according to you.
Oh, the irony.
Actual definitions of shit. Like what the scientific method is, and according to that, everything that you're talking about is pseudoscience. Whether you can rationally justify it in your own fucking mind or not is irrelevant.
No, so when you look up the word hypothesis, right, and you go to the etymology of that word, or you look up the definitions for that word, it's not exclusive to cause and effect relationships. I know you guys keep asserting that. No matter how many times you assert that, doesn't mean it's true. And if you go definition shopping, you might find some definitions that
qualify it with a scientific hypothesis, dude.
Oh, so now you're saying scientific hypothesis.
What the fuck do you think we're talking about?
Dude, it doesn't change the point that I'm trying to make, that a scientific hypothesis is not exclusive to cause and effect relationships.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely not. And I can pull up 5 different sources from, if what you're looking for is sources, got credible sources from Berkeley, from Stanford, many universities, from ancient philosophers that all state, right, that you can have scientific hypotheses that are not based on strict causal and effect relationships. I have it right here, dude.
What makes something scientific?
Oh, shit.
Right here, you got Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley.
Yeah, be careful that what you're claiming can't be reduced or can be reduced to absurdity, right?
No, because
if there's a standard there which could be applied in some other way, you could make some ridiculous statement and say that it's scientific. The reason something is scientific is because it's rigid, because it's limited, because there's no other outcome that can possibly exist. You've excluded the fucking bias, you've excluded potential other variables, you've excluded as much as you can to reduce all those things. Don't give it a broad meaning.
Listen, I understand your frustration.
This is why people think they live on a fucking spinning ball in outer space, bro.
Yeah, why would you want to give it a broad meaning?
I agree with everything that you guys are saying.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to give it a broad meaning?
It's not that I want to give it a broad meaning. It's that it has a broader meaning. It's not as rigid as you guys are trying to make it seem. And I agree with you when it comes to outer space and the cosmos. That's not science at all. At all. But when it comes to physical relationships on the Earth, when we're dealing with properties of the Earth, that is science. You can physically test the hypothesis on the Earth, whether there's deviation from horizontal. That's something that you can physically test and observe and replicate and reproduce.
That's measurement. That's measurement. They're 2 different words.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and
What
there's
makes
physical
it-
relationships, right? There's physical relationships in science. It's not exclusive to
Okay,
cause and effect.
why?
I'm not
Why?
establishing causality of why the Earth is
What
flat.
Yeah, exactly.
What
And just because
qualifies
hold on, just because I'm not trying to explain to you or give you guys a causal mechanism for why the Earth is flat
Yeah, we
doesn't
know.
mean it's not
You're
science.
just measuring it. Yeah, you're
Why?
just measuring
Why?
it, aren't you?
What qualifies it as being science?
The scientific method of reasoning. I established a hypothesis based off my. Hold on, I'm about to walk it out. I'm about to walk it out. I'm about to walk it out. I'm about to give you the controlled variable, the independent, and the independent variable.
walk it out.
Hold on, just let me walk it out.
words.
Oh,
You
my
just
gosh.
said you weren't trying to do all that. You were just measuring. Jesus Christ.
No, it's not just. If it was just measuring, it wouldn't be science. But I'm not just measuring. I make a natural observation. I make a natural.
You're like, you're going to check out,
Gosh,
you're going to quantify the topography, you're going to go and measure the surface, blah, blah, blah. That's just measuring, yeah?
Right, yeah, but you're oversimplifying, right? The oversimplification
You're
fallacy.
trying-
I'm not
you're
just
trying to
simply
make
measuring.
something up.
There's a hold
I
on,
don't
dude.
know
There's
why you're trying
see
to
this is what I can't talk.
Maybe
you
you're the
guys.
one who's
Go ahead.
overcomplicating it.
Let me know when
Maybe
I
you're
can
the one
talk.
who's
Go ahead.
overcomplicating
Dude,
it.
you talk
Maybe
more than all. Listen, bro, I'm sick of your bitching about not being able to talk. Your word count far exceeds everybody else's by far. You say 5 words for everybody else's, so shut the fuck up.
Did you come to that conclusion with empirical
I'm fucking
reasoning?
mute you, dude, and then we can catch up. Should I mute you so we can catch up? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why you're
Looking for votes, dude.
I don't know why you're determined.
I don't want to hear any more.
You don't sound
about-
well, yeah.
Sorry, dude. I don't want to hear any more about this. I'm just gonna go. I'm not gonna hear any more about you guys. Never. This always happens to me. This victim mentality that you're trying to put forth, it's not going to work in here. So make your case. If you think there's some kind of scientific method to measuring shit, then by all means, go ahead and do it. But try to calm down. Try to be concise, and don't use your fifis.
Yeah, and post some actual definitions if you're going to really try and make this argument. It can't just be, well, this is my version of science. I don't really care about that.
Well, we're waiting.
What's up? Oh, you unmuted me? Dude, I can't tell when I'm muted, dude. I was talking, come to find out I was muted. So it's like, it's a little frustrating, bro, honestly.
Just ease up on the cappuccino, you'll be all right.
Like, to me, you sound like you're in agreement with most of the important things we're talking about. I just don't know why you want, it seems like you're really passionate about this particular hill to die on, and I really don't understand why.
I'm just pushing back on the idea that the scientific method, right, of acquiring knowledge is exclusive to only causal and effect relationships. I get that you can find definitions that state that out of context. But we all know that you can make there's physical relationships also in nature.
Yeah, but I mean, the word science was given the name because of its method, right? So yeah, you can find relationships through measurement. Measurement isn't a scientific method, and there's no problem with that. It doesn't make the measurement not valid because it's not scientific method. They're just different things.
I honestly, dude, I'm in shock that you guys are saying that measurements are not part of the scientific method when that's exactly how you establish.
I mean, depending on how you mean that, that's not even necessarily what I'm saying. I'm saying a measurement. If you measure your table, it's not the scientific method, is it?
The scientific method to only measure the change.
They're just different things, definitionally. So I don't know why you're getting so bent out of shape about this point. It's pretty stupid. Just, help us smack the globies and be chill. It's fine.
It's kind of a straw man because we aren't saying the only way to has to be through the scientific method. We're not saying that. And I don't know if that's what you're saying with that. We're not saying that. Number two, it's a composition fallacy to say that just because in physics measurements are taken, that that's the whole of the entire process, right? No. So you can use math in science, but it is not science. And I have 3 citations in the chat that demonstrate that. If you have anything to, support your position that math is somehow science, we can go on that little definition hunt that you were talking about. But math is not science by definition.
Can I get a mic check?
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, was I not coming through earlier?
No.
Maybe not.
Okay, because I muted Lion because I was speaking and he just started going over me. And then Cyclone started going over me, so I guess I just came back. My question was
Yeah,
to Lion, where the hell did he pull out the scientific method of reasoning? That's what I want to know.
The first time I've heard you speak, by the way,
Well,
so if I spoke over you, it's because I didn't hear you.
Yeah, no, my fault.
I can't. Well, the irony is I can't validate this through empiricism, but Francis Bacon was the one who basically created the scientific method. As far as I know, that's what I've been told. That's what I read. Now, clearly, none of us can establish that with empiricism or naturalism, for that matter.
Well, I mean, empiricism. I mean, again, I think you're conflating both empiricism and empirical evidence.
No, I'm not.
Take out the two different types, dude. One could be done through observation, but empirical evidence has to be done through observation and experiment.
Right, and I get that. So empiricism requires your senses in action, right? I wasn't there to actually witness Francis Bacon do any of that, or even know for a fact that he wrote those papers that are claimed that he, you know what I mean?
Right, I understand that, but
credit to him.
It is history, and we can empirically, through empiricism, observing the information that they were given to us by history, then we know that it's, through empiricism is true.
No,
well, it would be valid for him to be like, I don't believe that if he wants to, but that's when we're talking about the value of empiricism and empirical observations to the globe believers. We're not really talking about history. We're talking about the geometry of the surface of the Earth. So that's where you're getting it twisted, because you're acting like because we emphasize empirical observation and measurement when it comes to determining the nature of the Earth we live on, that we're somehow claiming that we were there and we saw Francis Bacon coming up with this. Like it's unfair of you to say you should hold yourself to that standard. They're different subjects that we're talking about. You don't believe the histories. I mean, you're entitled to that. There's definitely a lot of fuckery with the histories. But you could also make the argument that, yeah, it was empirical when I read the paper that said this. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that it was this guy, this character, and this is how it all happened, like the paper describes. So again, just a bit of a I don't know. I don't really know if it's a really valuable argument to really hold.
Oh, well, at the end of the day, the scientific method only has one purpose, and it's for establishing cause and effect relationships in nature. It's the way it's built. It doesn't have any other purpose. It's not meant for saying, hey, I think that the Earth might be flat or a globe or whatever. It's not a hypothesis.
Just seems to me he wants to say to Golby, I got science too. You know what I mean? And you got globe science, I got flat Earth science. We both have science. Dude, who cares about their words?
I thought you said he didn't believe in the globe.
No, I'm not.
That's what I mean, but I think he's attached to the word science because in debates with Golbies, he wants to say that I can scientifically prove the Earth is flat.
Right. Okay.
That's part of it. I'm not gonna lie. That's part of it. But to me, I really believe this. That's not the only reason, right? I just know that there's physical relationships that we can test. We can prove.
You just don't need to use that word. There's no benefit to you using that word in that context. It doesn't add anything to the argument, and it's incorrect definitionally. So I would drop that part, and certainly don't come arguing with us about it. That's a waste of your time and ours.
Sorry, Tom. I thought you finished it. The measurement itself, the empirical bit, we don't need scientific hypothesis for this fucking question. Just stick with the measurement.
Is that Jedi?
Yeah, man.
Oh, hey, Jedi. Your mic's coming in really muffled for me. I don't know if that's just me.
Oh, I couldn't hear him either. Sorry, Jedi.
He had a scarf wrapped around his face because it's so cold out.
I was quite far away from my microphone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you were over in Calais. All right. Good to hear you, bro.
Yeah, I could hear you as well. I don't understand why this guy's arguing. Like I said, he's got a measurement. Why does he have to say it's scientific? It's a measurement. It's empirical. Horizontal.
Yeah. Could be better.
Another good example. You guys ever heard about the Royal Astronomical Society? How they measure the horizon to be at eye level, at 6 inches from the water surface, 100 feet from the water surface, 150 feet from the water surface, 2 miles up from the water surface, the horizon remained at eye level.
Well, can you post that citation? Because I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I don't have it on. Give me a second. Yeah, and I'll post it in a second.
Take your time.
The reason I bring this up because you can make a hypothesis based off of a few measurements that you did of the horizon, right? One at sea level and one, on top of your roof, right? And based off of that, you could deduce that the horizon remains at eye level as you move up. Now, it's a rational inference. It hasn't been proven, right? And then you go and test the hypothesis that the horizon remains at eye level as you move up. That's a scientific experiment based off of measurements, physical relationships.
What is the independent variable?
We already did this, dude. You're jumping in way late. We already skipped this rope with him like 17,000 times.
Hold on. Well, because I never get to walk it out with you guys, right? So first, the hypothesis is that the horizon remains at eye level as I move up in altitude. So what would be the independent variable? Would be the observer's altitude, right? And then the dependent variable, which depends on the independent variable, would be your measurement of the horizon.
Fucking so incoherent, man.
So
Cause your horizon is your observer height.
Yeah, the independent variable is the observer's height, altitude.
So let me ask you this. So you don't think the horizon is apparent?
No, I do think it's apparent, but that's
Then
not.
how
That
does it
doesn't
maintain
negate.
the geometric relationship being apparent?
Yeah, then you can't get a measurement to it.
No, you could still get a measurement to it. It's just that you have to understand that that measurement is contingent on atmospheric conditions.
You can't get, well, so it's not measurement.
Yeah, then sometimes it won't be at eye level then, right?
Well, this is the interesting thing about it. It gets a little tricky, dude. I don't want to get into it, but basically, if you look through a lens, it can shift the horizon. But when you look at it with the naked eye, it's always at eye level, dude, regardless of atmospheric conditions. It's something a weird phenomenon that not too many people have figured out why that's the case.
Regardless of atmospheric conditions, so meaning when it's a foggy day, a thick fog around you, would you be able to see the horizon at eye level?
Well,
Yeah,
no,
on
within
the
reason.
On
Within
the
reason.
ocean, yeah. No, even on the ocean though, yeah, you would.
When it's a thick fog,
Big fog? How will you do that? Huge mist.
so you are able to see the horizon when it's foggy?
You mean like when you're in a cloud or something?
When
Yeah,
it's
no,
foggy,
you wouldn't
you
be
know
able to.
what is fog. Yeah, it's like cloud. It's that thick vapor that is around us that can't let you see the car in front of you.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were just talking about like the fog of the morning that like rolls in onto California or whatever, like that
No,
stuff.
I'm talking about fog, real fog, that thick white cloud that is surrounding the environment, the surface, and can't even let you see the car that is in front of you. So you get closer to the car to be able to see it. You're telling me that you will be able to see the horizon at eye
dude,
level.
no, I already told you
No,
bro.
yeah,
Stop,
no,
dude.
no, not
Why
that.
you
I'm
going
sorry. I'm sorry, Negros. I misunderstood what you were saying, but it is kind of true that we live in a fog, right?
Nice.
Like all the
So
time. It's always foggy around us, right? That's why we can't see that far.
Second example, Fata Morgana. When you see a fake horizon, a false horizon below eye level, and objects on the surface of water appears to you to be flying in the air. They are not. They're still on the surface of water. The surface of water is just reflecting the sky, so you're not seeing any horizon at eye level, but below eye level.
Dude, we get it, dude. We understand,
So it's
man.
dependent to atmospheric conditions. So what you said was completely wrong.
Dude, it's like you guys repeat what I said. I said it's contingent on atmospheric conditions. It's dependent on atmospheric conditions. I understand that, dude. I know all about superior and inferior mirages, dude. I know all the different types of refraction, bro. You don't got to school me on that, bro. You don't think I've evaluated my position and included that in my reasoning?
I misunderstood you. I was thinking that you said that independently to weather conditions, so the horizon will always appear to be at eye level.
No, but there's something strange that goes on when you look at the horizon with your naked eye compared to when you look at it through a camera, a theodolite, or a telescope, dude. Because of the eye, the retina is orders of magnitude thinner than that of any optical device that we know of right now, right? And because of that, it's less prone to any type of refraction that would be affecting the observer's view of the horizon. Like, and I honestly don't entirely understand why this is the case, but they demonstrated in the 1800s, they use a theodolite in different telescopes, and then they use a steel tube with an opening on one end that had crosshairs on it and an aperture on the other end. It was closed with an aperture in the very middle. It had no lenses, right? When they looked at the horizon through a theodolite, they noticed a horizontal dip every single time, dude. Even a couple inches above the water surface or 6 feet above the water surface, there was always a horizontal dip. Regardless of atmospheric conditions, dude, there was always a horizontal dip. But when they looked through the aperture of that steel tube, lensless steel tube, the horizon remained at eye level consistently, time and time again, regardless of altitude, even 2 miles up in a weather balloon.
What do you mean horizontal dip?
So there's in theodolites, there's something called a vertical and a horizontal dip. A horizontal dip is when you have a horizontal line inside the theodolite. The axis of the theodolite, it's like a crosshair, right?
Yeah.
The horizon dips below the horizontal line of that crosshair consistently through optical measurements because of the lens itself.
Yeah,
nothing to do with
drop.
Yeah, nothing to do with atmospheric conditions. There's already a natural bias for whatever reason that's yet to be understood, where the horizon consistently appears below eye level through optics. And it's funny because this was written about in the 1800s, and Globers deny this today. They think that optical drop is because of the curvature of the Earth.
Okay, but what is your point with it?
My point is that there's a weird phenomena with optics where the horizon appears below eye level, but when you look at the horizon with the naked eye, it maintains at eye level, the very center of the axis of the eye, consistently, regardless of altitude, regardless of atmospheric conditions.
Is that a good measurement? Is that like a good standard or a good way to kind of determine what's going on with the horizon, just looking straight out?
No, it's not ideal.
Okay, so it doesn't matter what any astronomical society did, if they just said, well, when we look out, it seems to be at eye level. Now that's pretty subjective and it's more of an apparent type of thing. So it's like, what does that prove? Nothing really.
I mean, anyone that doesn't think that they don't have to look down at the ground is retarded. I mean, like across a planar surface, that is, not excluding looking up at a hill, right, being beneath at the base of a mountain or whatever, looking up.
Yeah, so the only way the horizon will ever truly be at eye level is if your face is on the ground.
I used to think that too.
Well, you might not be able to resolve it being above or below eye level because of the acuity of the eye, but that's it.
Listen, I don't know.
Right? So there's a space between, say you're at 2,000 feet, there's a space between you and the ground. Between your eye level and the ground, there's a space.
This actually debunks the globe, though, because on the globe model, as you went up in altitude, the horizon should fall, but you should start to fall. But that's not what we see in real life. In real life, the horizon maintains at eye level as you go up, dude. And
yeah, we're well aware that the horizon doesn't match the globe geometry. We know that. Because the horizon's not the edge of a ball, and it never is. It's never where they say it should be, ever.
Yeah, so in optics, the horizon is literally the midpoint of the eye, right? So right where your retina is, the cornea, it's the very center of the axis of the eye. So you have the upper field and the lower field. And the horizon's always at the very center of the axis of the eye, dude. And that I don't understand why that is, dude. I'm still trying to figure it out, but that's a natural phenomenon that's been proven.
Well, for one, all the images that you see, the lower field is actually what you see is the upper field, and the upper field hits that lower part of your eye, right? So the images are inverted on your retina, and your brain turns them right side up.
Yeah, allegedly, yeah.
Not allegedly. You can look through someone's eyeball and see this. That's how they figured it out.
Yeah. But I was gonna say, I don't know, dude.
Yeah, in a world where there is no air, no humidity, no dust, no nothing, you wouldn't be able to draw anything other than that horizon that would be in the center of your vision, where all parallel lines intersect into. So the horizon is created only because there is a surface that you are standing on. You can imagine that surface being perfectly smooth and even, so that horizon will be there at the center of your eyes. If you imagine that reality doesn't have, or that imaginary world doesn't have any atmosphere. That's a stupid word, but yeah, just we use it. So without atmosphere, so there will be that line in the middle of the image of your eyes, created by your eyes. So what you see. That's because of perspective.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think sometimes we talk past each other. I agree that the horizon is an apparent position. It's not a geometric position of the crust or anything like that. I'm in total agreement. But regardless, the horizon seems to always be at eye level, dude. Now, I know that there's a lot of optics that show the horizon moving up and down, depending on the conditions of the day. That is true. I've seen those too. But when you take optics away, and even though your eye is considered an optic, for whatever reason, the eye, when you compare the footage of the exaggerated the deviation of the horizon throughout the day or throughout the month, the eye isn't prone to that same type of exaggeration. And I think it's because of the lens.
Yeah, exactly. The size of the lens that is inside of your eye is not exactly the same size of the lens that is used in the camera. So that would be a thing. And so what do we call it? The angular resolution or something like that. So the angle, so where those conversions happened. So It will be that your eye have smaller ones, than smaller angle than the lens of the camera. Maybe that would be a factor.
What's that? I forget the video. There's a GIF that's going around. It's been a couple years old, of the horizon moving up and down. You know what the name of it?
Yeah, it's the Skunk Bay one.
Skunk Bay is one of them. There's another one.
Yeah, I'm not sure, man.
But I propose that even with the black swan, even if for whatever reason, depending on the conditions of the day, certain things are resolved, the horizon remains at eye level. So that horizon is still in the middle point, the axis of the eye, even if certain things become apparent. It just means that the horizon is now behind the object. But normally the horizon is always at eye level, dude.
Exactly. I wouldn't say that. No. And also, the distance to that horizon, that's a problem. Because the position where the horizon is, at eye level or not, wouldn't matter a lot. Rather than the horizon moving upward, forward and backward, so the horizon being in front of the oryx and behind the oryx. So that's claiming that the curved surface is flattening up and curving again.
No, so basically the horizon, it maintains, at eye level, but it can push back or push forward depending on the conditions of the day, and make things resolvable. So it's still at eye level, dude. If you look at it with the naked eye, for example, I wasn't there at the Black Swan event, but I propose that even with the Black Swan on that one day where you could see the oil rig, the horizon, if you looked at it with the naked eye, would still be at eye level, regardless if the oil rig's resolvable or not. It's still at the same point, the middle point, the axis of the eye. But when you look at it through cameras and stuff or optics, it moves up and down. But that's not what happens naturally when you look at it with your eye.
Normally, because when you use a camera, just remember that moment when you have a camera, a powerful camera, and you zoom at someone on the top of a mountain that is so far from you. So that person will appear to you like being inside the medium of water. That person will be hazing, moving up and down sideways, so his legs are not stable, so they appear to move like if you are looking at the guy inside the medium of water. What you are doing in reality, you are taking the camera and you are zooming at the object. You are not moving the camera forward, but you are just condensing that distance between you and the object by increasing the angle of vision. I forgot the so that angle of view of the camera, it increases so you see the object close to you. But you are just squishing that distance between you and the object. So those molecules, vapor, humidity, so vapor molecules and humidity in the air are condensed, so it appears to you like you are looking at through water. So those will make the image move like if it is there is a haze or something like that. That's just you condensing everything between the camera and the guy in distance. And when you zoom at the object in distance, the molecules in the atmosphere will be condensed. So it will behave like that. When you are using your eyes, you're not doing that. The person in distance will not even appear to you. Ever tested that? Look at something, or just like, for example, the moon. You can zoom at the moon. You see that moment when you zoom at the moon and you see like if the moon is inside the medium of water? So it happens like that when you are zooming at something in distance. That thing is so far, you take your camera, you zoom at it. And you will see letters. If it is a sign and have letters, you will see those letters moving, waving. Like if they are behind vapor or fire. And also, for some footage, where you see those that movement of the horizon in distance, like the one that you talked about, that GIF where you see things going up and down. You don't see that with your eyes because you're not using the time lapse with your eyes. You can't do time lapse footages with your eyes. So those videos are just time lapse. Any video where you can see the horizon moving, and that GIF where you see the buildings and the surface of water going up and down. So those are time lapses.
Wait, yeah, every video is a time lapse technically, right? So like if you stood there long enough, yeah, you would see those changes occur.
Completely, yeah. It happens, but it's slowly for you. You can't see that.
Well, I think what Lion's saying is that you wouldn't see that happening.
You wouldn't see it, yeah, at all. You wouldn't see
saying that with the human eye, it's like negates the effects of the mirages that are taking place.
No,
about that. It is interesting what you posted in the side chat. I was been offline if you've got the full book of that, so I can have a read of it. It's interesting. But I mean, like saying that through the human eye, an inferior mirage wouldn't happen, and you've got that false horizon involved in that case, and it could absolutely be below eye level. Just the human eye being able to negate an inferior mirage, right, or something like that, or a superior mirage when you see like a boat that's appearing to float, right? And then what? You take a snapshot of it. There's a floating boat. You move the camera away, and all of a sudden everything's normal again. I don't think that would be the case.
No, I'm not saying that's completely impossible to see mirages with the human eye. Clearly, that's not the case. What I'm stating is that even with the mirages, the horizon maintains its place at eye level, dude, at the midpoint of the axis of the eye. Even though there could be a temporary mirage, the real horizon would still be, or the apparent horizon, even though it looks like it might be an internal reflection causing it to dip or whatever. And honestly, I don't know for a fact, but I suspect, based off of people in the 1800s that did multiple measurements, and this is actually Alex Gleason's book, page 289. That whole chapter is about measurements of the horizon with optics, without optics. And time again, the horizon remained at eye level, even 2 miles up in a hot air balloon, dude.
It's interesting.
Now, I'm not saying that mirages don't happen. Mirages can still happen, but I think that we've been kind of deceived a little bit through lenses, through optics, like cameras and dialectic telescopes that exaggerate any type of inferior mirage or superior mirage that might be occurring. It's not as exaggerated in nature when you look at it with your naked eye. It's negligible at best. Now, even like when you talk about Fata Morganas, dude, those are very, very rare. You can only see them in certain places around the world, like the Straits of Gibraltar. Certain places that have the perfect conditions. Those are like the very, very rare. I've never seen one. I mean, with the Black Swan, dude, like we're not dealing with an inferior or superior mirage. We're dealing with sinking and looming with the horizon. But even like when it comes to refraction, like that science hasn't really been like ironed out, dude. Like there's a University of San Diego with their papers with Dr. Thomas Young or whatever his name is, and you got plenty of other people battling him and his observations, saying that he's wrong. So like I'm not going to make any positive claims on what's causing refractions. I know people state that it has to do with the gradient densities, different temperatures, and the layers. We don't know that to be a fact, because Thomas Young said it has nothing to do with like inversion of layers or anything like that. It's just it had to do with, if I remember correctly, it had to do with the temperatures. Gradually, even the gradual change in temperatures can cause things to appear differently. It has nothing to do with like inversions or anything like that.
DJ, what's the name of that phenomenon that's happening in that video that you have with the paper boat on that road, where you see the paper boat being obstructed bottom up by the horizon?
Yeah, that's an inferior mirage.
Oh, okay. That's an inferior mirage. It's not sinking, or is it?
Inferior mirage. Probably the easiest one to replicate on a small scale, right? Because it's easy to like have a hot piece of road or a hot piece of concrete or footpath or whatever. But yeah, look, Lion, it looks pretty much like a Fata Morgana at the Black Swan location. If people want some refracted cranes, or whatever you want to call it, some bendy cranes, there's the bendiest cranes you'll ever get in the side chat.
Don't you... isn't it similar to you, like the effect that you see in that video with that paper boat and the Black Swan? So the paper boat would be like that oil rig that is not moving backward or forward. It's not getting away from the observer. So sometimes you see the horizon behind the oil rig, like in the beginning of that small video that you have. And the other observation where you see the oil rigs like the sinking into the horizon. And the horizon appears in front of the oil rig. So for me, I see the same thing in that small video, like in the Black Swan.
Okay, the one they call the White Swan, right? Where you've got the horizon closer to platform Hill House, right? The 6 mile platform. And it looks like platform habitat. The further platform is sinking below it, right? Yeah, that's textbook definition sinking, right? Sinking's just a less extreme version of an inferior mirage, right? So it's like less of like, you get that inferior mirage when you have like a very warm surface and you have quite a big spike between the warm layer of air at the surface and then it gets much cooler quickly as it goes up in altitude. But the sinking is like a less extreme version of that, right? And you don't get the total internal reflection, which is like that area where the horizon is that kind of looks like a puddle or like a mirror surface, right? Sinking's just a less extreme version of a inferior mirage. And yeah, the horizon is said to appear much closer than what it normally would in the absence of a mirage, and it usually happens on a very clear day, usually early in the morning or late in the afternoon or during the night, right? And the way it would happen,
like it is a completely new one. So the horizon that was behind that small paper boat, so the end of the garage. So because it was in front of a garage. So let's assume that there is the surface behind the boat, so the horizon will be farther than that. And at a certain moment, there was a new horizon forming in front of the boat and starting to obscure that boat from bottom up, and you don't even see the surface behind where the boat is. That's one. You don't see the half of the boat. That's two. And you don't see that old horizon that you could see before. So exactly what's happening in those two observations of the black swan.
You have to be, what I'm trying to say is that you have to be cognitive and wary of the fact that these observations are being done through optics with thick lenses that exaggerate any type of refraction that might be naturally occurring there, basically rendering the observations kind of weak, right? For any type of real evidence. So if you read the paper from the Royal Astronomical Society, they used optics without any lenses. They simply used steel tubes around like 12 inches long, 18 inches long, or whatever, with an aperture on one end and a crosser on the other end, and they did their measurements with that, without lenses. And consistently, regardless of atmospheric conditions, the horizon appeared at eye level. Now, granted, you can still have refractive effects, right? Objects like the oil rig can still appear to sink halfway, right? Or even completely, while the horizon is still at eye level. So you could still have the horizon at eye level, the sea at eye level, and have objects appearing and disappearing, moving up and moving down, while still maintaining the horizon at eye level.
So, oh my God. Looking at from a tube with your naked eyes, do you think that you are able or not able to make the horizon meet the crosshair that you have at the end of the tube?
Yes, easily.
No. Easily. Do you think it's possible only with one single result? So you put your eye, you will always, no matter what, you will always see the horizon at the crosshair, and you are not able to make it appear below the crosshair or above the crosshair by just you using your eyes.
All you have to do is, and this is what they've noticed, that as long as you level the instrument, right, the horizon is always at the horizontal of the axis of the eye, or within that steel tube with the crosses on the other side. Hold on. As long as the tool is leveled and perpendicular to plumb, you'll find out that the horizon will always be at eye level, dude.
So, listen to me. If you put a crosshair inside at the end of a tube without any lens, and you put like an apple or a dot that you want to focus to with the where that crosshair is crossing in, so the middle of the crosshair, aren't you able, with moving your eye, to make that apple or that dot move around the crosshair? You are able to do that.
Why it needs an aperture on the other end.
So you are completely able to make you by yourself to make that. Just listen to me. I swear you are not understanding me because you are saying yes. You won't say yes if you understand what I'm saying. So because you want to see the horizon at the crosshair, you will point your eyes to be able to see it at the crosshair. If you want to move the horizon up and down, you will move your eyes and you will see the horizon up and down the crosshair.
And you put a pinhole, dude.
The horizon is
pinhole on one side.
So listen,
Nikos, I agree. Hold on, Nikos.
The horizon is not dependent to the tube, or the crosshair is dependent to your eye. But when you use a camera, the camera doesn't have that moving eye where you can, at the end of the lens, behind the lens, the camera will go up and down behind the lens. No, the camera doesn't do that. The camera is fixed behind the lens. The lens is fixed to the camera, not your eyes behind the tube. So you can make that horizon appear at the crosshair.
All right, Nikos, I understand you, and you're right. And this is my argument against the Globers when they bring up observations from mountaintops where the horizon is dipping below eye level, below the crosshairs, right? Now, my question to them, how can you guarantee that the camera is aligned in such a way where the sensor itself, the sensor of the camera, right, is perfectly aligned so that the horizon is dead center? to that camera's focal point. The very center of the aperture of that camera has to be centered. If it's not centered, we're talking about, dude, the tolerances that if it's even a little bit above or below the exact center of the aperture, the horizon is going to be displaced.
Yeah, thank you. I tell them
And that's not even considering the lenses of the camera, whether it's a DSR, whether it's a DSLR or whether it's a Polaroid. It doesn't matter, dude. Even if you use the Nikon P900, bro, if it's not perfectly aligned, it's gonna displace the horizon. Absolutely. But that's why we have a very, very small aperture, right? A very small aperture that's perfectly in line and horizontal with the crosshair on the other side of that tube. And when you level it, it's parallel.
Yeah, I said that to McToon in his comment section, and I say that to the guys following McToon who repeat the same bullshit, who uses those images where he shows the horizon below the crosshair on a phone or a digital sextant. I just tell them.
The water level, one with the red dye, that's the most disingenuous one.
Yes, that's the one I'm talking about with the red dye. Oh, look, the horizon's below eye level.
Listen. You know how you can tell from an image, how you can figure out where the camera's pointed, namely the center, the principal optical axis? If you draw a corner-to-corner line and a corner-to-corner line from the other side, where they intersect, where that X is, that's the direction the camera's pointed. And you'll notice in all of these, the camera is never pointed in line with their water level or the horizon.
Yep.
The camera's tilted.
Yep. And honestly, even if
all you have to do, just for anybody that didn't hear it, you draw an X on the image, diagonal to diagonal, diagonal to diagonal, and where they intersect is the direction the camera's pointed.
Yeah, and they use the one from the plane too. The fucking plane is at.
But this is the thing, dude.
The plane is having an angle is tilted due to the angle of attack. The damn plane is pointing up.
Even if we granted them that the aperture of that camera is perfectly in line with the water, with the liquid dye, right? The red dye liquid, whatever, the tube. Even if we granted them that, you have to understand that even with that said, the lens itself, just the lens itself is going to make the horizon dip below eye level, dude. You can't depend on any optics with lenses when you're measuring the horizon for that reason. This is known as collimation. They have to correct for this. In any type of theodolite measurement, usually the total stations has an automatic correction that you just press a button and it accounts for collimation. A lot of times you have to aim the theodolites towards each other so that the collimation cancels out. There's a whole type of methodology for it, dude. I don't want to walk through it right now, but it's kind of confusing. But this is well known, dude. It's called collimation. It's an precision optic for manufacturing. They have to, even when the manufacturing of the lenses, we know there's barrel distortion, there's all type of chromatic aberration, and there's collimation, dude. And even with the best precision optics, like the $6,000 Canon, $10,000 Canon telescopic scopes, dude, you cannot completely eradicate collimation. It's just it's a natural phenomenon because of the thickness of the lens. But my question is, why is it always dipping below the horizontal? Why not above? Why always below?
Why? Why would it go above? Because if there is some effects due to the air and the temperature, so that light will bend down because it is horizontal surface. Because it is a horizontal surface, that light will not reach your eyes, so you won't see it. Only if it is reflecting, for example. That's why I don't think you are able to see that crisp line where the sky meets the ground. There will always be a slight line where there is some mirroring. We have some videos, you know them, Indio, and you posted some videos with that empty horizon. So there is always that shit. That empty part caused by the thickness of the atmosphere or the air that we breathe and the humidity in the air. And there is some mirroring that will reflect the light coming from the sky, bending on the surface at an angle. And then it can reach your eyes. And
there's always a boundary layer right at the surface. There will always, it's documented in the literature. It's not like this is unknown. Basically, like 6 inches to 8 inches above the surface of the earth, there's kind of like I mean, it can go higher too, but like they know at least at that height, there's a boundary layer, like a cushion of air that's kind of different than everything else.
That's funny. I always say it's like a 4-finger distance.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of different reasons for this that I'm not going to get into. There's electromagnetic effects where, I don't know if you've heard this term, like.
You talking about the marine layer or another layer?
I don't know if it's below the marine layer. It's You can read about it in. I'm trying to think of it. I know the author's name.
Yeah,
That reciprocal zenith angle paper.
Oh, that 900 one, the 900-page paper or whatever.
No, it's not that long. Hold on, I'll find it. Two seconds.
No, sometimes that's a very small line just above the horizon, where you can see during the sunset the sun going on itself, squishing on itself, or forming like an oval shape and fading just above the horizon in that when on its own image. So that line, you think it is the sky or this continuity of the circle of the sun, but no, it's just a line, mirror line, like a mirage. I have an image. Just to give you an example, here, like this one, here.
Yeah, sometimes you get the keyhole effect too, right? That's what you're talking about. Like it's above that hard line of the horizon, but there's
exactly. And sometimes it's obvious, like you see in the image, in the images at the right part of that image I sent. So sometimes it's obvious like that. Sometimes it's not, and that's what you see. You think that's just the horizon, but I think that line is always there. Sometimes it's not obvious. You don't see it really. You can't distinguish it, but it's there.
Yep. Very true.
Okay, it's called monitoring of the refraction coefficient in the lower atmosphere using controlled simultaneous reciprocal zenith angle measurements. And they have, so part of, at the beginning of the paper, they go through refraction below 1 meter height. They have refraction over ice and water. So these are other tests that other people have done. So you can see the lowest height. Lowest height is 50 centimeters. The point is that, listen, you can test, and I've done this. Well, I haven't done the test, but I evaluated some images this way, is that you can test. So you want to know if there's compression or it's, drop from curvature, right? So what you can do is you can take an image and you take the vertical. So you take 2 points that you know the distance, their vertical spacing or their horizontal spacing. Like say you have 2 towers and the towers are a mile apart. You can count, and so you can count the pixels, and you know that, like, say each pixel equals 52 feet. So then you can take that to the image and apply that to the vertical, right? So now you can say, okay, so one pixel is 52 feet high, and what you'll see is the vertical scale and the horizontal scale do not match ever, and it has nothing to do with Earth curve because you can see the entire whatever in the image, right? So you have some another tower or a mountain, and like, okay, from this point on the mountain to this point on the mountain is 500 feet. Okay, so how many pixels should this be? Well, what you'll find out is that it'll be compressed by 10 to 15% when compared with the horizontal scale. Or you can compare infrared to visible. So there's other ways you can do to say, hey, is there actual visual compression? And we know there is because we've seen compressed sunsets. It's actually a thing, flattening of the sun. So when Glovers say, hey, this don't happen, it certainly happens. 100% happens. You can demonstrate it happens. It's not even a doubt. They just don't like it. They want to say, oh, that's Earth curve. This mountain should be above your eye level, blah, 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 blah. But that's just cap, dude. It's just nonsense. Things can compress visually with this. It's not even an arguable point at this point.
Can't believe that many people believe the Earth is flat.
It's not a belief. The globe is a belief. So how do you know the Earth's a globe? Now, how somebody else knows it, how do you know it?
How do I know that what?
Earth is a globe. How do you know it?
No, I mean, you can't know the exact shape, but you can know that it's not flat because of the shadow of object. Shadow of objects. It changes the angle based on where you are on the globe. The shadow of anything.
The shadow of anything.
Yeah, that's correct.
Doesn't that presuppose the distance of the light source?
No, it's not a question of a distance, a question of angle.
Yeah.
It exists
So
a different angle because the planet
shadow
is
angle
round.
can differ if the light source has different distances.
No, but the distance from the sun to Earth remains the same because Earth is circling the sun. It's the angle that changes. It's the angle that changes.
Yeah, that's a cool story.
Is that?
It's our story.
So is that
it's a cool story that the Earth is circling the sun. That's a story, okay? And what the angles will be different depending on the distance from the light source. So you can easily demonstrate this by taking an object on your flat floor, taking a light, putting it 1 meter above your floor, moving the light around. Then move the light 2 meters and move the light around. You'll see all the angles change. They're all different angles.
Well, but that's because you're taking the source as the light that you're holding, not the light of the sun.
Okay, how far is the sun away then?
I don't know exactly.
Okay, so but everything you said assumes parallel rays of light.
I'm sorry, assumes that what?
The rays of light are parallel. They strike the Earth parallel. So the ray that hits Cyrene and the ray that hits what's the other place? Can't fucking remember. I can't believe I'm going to see now. I can't remember.
Alexandria.
Alexandria. Jesus Christ! I fucking said this 1,000 times. I can't remember. Alexandria. As soon as the rays that hit both those places are in parallel. Let's say the sun is 3,000 miles away. It's going to cast the identical shadow. And this isn't my opinion. It's admitted in the academic literature. They admit it. Oddly enough, at the same time Eratosthenes was alive, the Chinese did the exact same test with sticks and shadows, and they came to a different conclusion because they had a different presupposition.
I can do the same Eratosthenes thing on my basement floor with a local lamp, and if I take or toilet paper rolls or paper towel rolls, I can do it with a light bulb and a lamp, dude, and get the same results. It doesn't mean my basement floor is flat. It just means that, like, the distance...
The point of observation is immeasurable.
Exactly. So
if you start off,
I can do it in live real time, like right now for you guys if you want. I'll just go get like a 2 toilet paper tubes and then a lamp, and then I'll show you that I'll get the same results as Eratosthenes on a smaller scale. That doesn't mean that it's curved, because my basement floor is level, I promise you.
Yeah, I just posted a video. So this guy hired people to do this, and they proved his table is a sphere.
I do that to my wife every time we go to pool. We love play pool, and we argued about that when she were globe earther. And now every time I go with her to play pool, I just tell her, so go ahead and calculate the circumference of the globe pool table.
It's a full sphere. You're playing on a full sphere.
Yeah, a full sphere.
Yeah, it's crazy what happens when you start off with false premises. You can draw false conclusions. It sounds like that's what we had happen here.
Yeah, they literally put the sun at a distance that is way too far away so that they can explain the result they're getting out of the wells or the shadows on their Eratosthenes BS. But if you do it on a level surface with a more local light source, like a closer light source, you get the same results. It doesn't mean there's a curve. It means that the light source is clearly a lot closer. So right now, an astronomical unit is considered 93 million light years, or I mean 93... I don't know what it is again, but it's like 93 million miles away is an astronomical unit. So, like, I personally don't think that that's true. I don't think that the sun is 93 million miles away. But if it was, then I could maybe expect to see those results, right? with particles and waves and.
Wait, you think that the sun is closer or longer than us?
Closer. I think the sun's a lot closer than 93 million miles.
Hmm.
But do you know how they derive the distance to the sun, Chow?
I think that it's because of the speed of light. No.
Definitely not.
You'd already need to know how far away it is.
So they use the technically the calendar. So they take a measurement or a photo from like when the sun's at the equinox, when the Earth's at this side of its orbit. Then they measure the distance from this side of the orbit, and then they use like an angle or something like that. So they're using like time and distance. They're using it's a whole bunch of BS, bro. They're using their system to model out their system. It's bullshit. Just think of it, bro. Like, can you picture a million versus a billion? Probably not. So, like, you really think that Saturn's 2 billion miles away? And they're sending stuff there? Like, come on. Come on.
Wait, they're sending stuff to Saturn. I thought they were sending stuff to Mars and to the moon only.
Well, no, you haven't seen these beautiful pictures of, like, Juno or whatever it's called? CaoixKiller, circling Saturn, taking photos of the rings, man. And it's clearly CGI. And they got like a picture of this like satellite taking pictures. It's so weird. Like, come on, bro. It's a crackpot idea. You're going to die down here with the rest of us on this flat Earth. Nobody's going to space. That's BS. It's cool. It's an awesome idea. It's great. It's real sci-fi. I love it. Robots, rocket ships. Fuck yeah, AI. But it's not happening. Like, for real. Like,
not in our lifetimes, at least.
Definitely not. Like, go look at the Katy Perry video, bro. Like, you really think that's what's happening? Give me a break. There's no way, dude. Come on. Parabolic flights is all you're getting. If you want to float, you're going to have to do parabolic flights. And, like, you can increase the angle or decrease the angle and increase the speed and get a longer flight. But, like, that's as good as you're going to get, bro. Nobody's on space.
It's way too expensive anyways. Costs way too much fuel.
Let me just break it to you so you don't have to worry anymore. The vacuum of space and the ever-expanding into nothingness universe that you believe in does not exist as you think it does.
So the universe is not expanding?
What would it be expanding into?
Well, the light reaching the darkness, the nothing.
Sorry, that's just science fiction, bro. We're talking about physical reality here.
Yeah,
right?
Physical reality. That
nothing
the
doesn't
light
exist,
reaches
bro.
somewhere, we won't know what exists because there's no light there.
If you consider universal fractals and then three simple words, cymatics, sonoluminescence, Teslaphoresis. So then when you consider those three things and then like consider how everything works on dynamic oscillating frequencies and all that, like it's pretty easy to understand that why the secular person believes that the universe started at some point and then it's going to end at some point, and why the believer in Christianity or the Christian or the Muslim believes that the universe started and it's going to end at some point. Look at sonoluminescence. It's an oscillating frequency dynamic, so there's two of them, and then they create a cavitation that expands and collapses so fast that it creates light. I think that's what's going on with the universe, but on a larger fractal. So it's the same speed and the same frames, but at a larger rate because we're so small in observance to it.
Maybe we should get down to like some terms here. What do you mean universe?
I personally think universe means one spoke. I think it's a dynamic frequency. I think it's sound and oscillation that gives you Teslaphoresis. Dynamic frequency and oscillations also give you polarization, shapes, construct, and then obviously freedom of choice. So I think we're in something that's alive. That's what I think.
Okay, well, we don't want to confuse this fellow here. Maybe he believes that the universe is this ever-expanding vacuum into darkness. What is the darkness?
The darkness is a space that always existed, but life has not reached there. I mean, light.
Okay. Now, how would you go about validating that?
Wait, doesn't that mean it's not expanding then? The universe
Well, yeah,
is already existing.
the light
in
of
a
the stars
finite
are
form.
expanding.
Hold on. You're saying the universe exists in a finite form and the light is expanding
didn't say
into
that it was
the
finite.
finite. Well,
I didn't say that it was finite.
So but I just want to see if you think you could validate the idea that you're proffering. Is that your idea, or did someone tell you that?
No, it's my idea that the stars that we observe has light. The light travels. So if light hasn't reached somewhere, it doesn't matter if that place exists because there's no light to observe it.
What's a star?
The sun. The sun's a star.
I thought the sun was the sun.
No, yeah, the sun is a star.
Okay, so do you think the sun is some kind of giant ball of gas in an ever-expanding vacuum?
The cosmic.
I don't know if the vacuum is expanding, but yeah, it's a huge ball of gas.
Okay, could you demonstrate for me a burning ball of gas in a vacuum in a smaller scale, like here on Earth?
That's called science.
The Chinese can. I can't. I'm sorry.
No, just give me the experiment. Hold on, Heretic. Just give me the experiment then.
Experiment of what? That the Chinese are trying to do?
No, I'm not saying they're trying to do it. You said Chinese can do it. Apparently, it can be done. It has been done. You're going to get me the experiment where they're burning balls of gas in vacuum chambers.
No, like I'm saying that they are trying to. I'm not saying that they have done already.
Okay, so it hasn't been done, so we don't have to worry about your speculation whether or not it could be done. It hasn't been done, and it won't be done because no one can burn balls of gas in vacuum chambers, right?
So far, with the current technology that we have.
Jerry Lee Lewis.
They've been saying that for 70 years.
It's an appeal to the future, my friend.
Money has gone into fusion over the last 70 years. It's probably trillions of dollars.
In what? In nuclear fusion?
Yeah, fusion.
Wait, it's fusion or there's fission? I think with the sun it's fission, right?
Fusion. Fission is the separation. Fusion is the...
For that. Everybody in...
You turn hydrogen into helium. Hydrogen into helium is nuclear fusion.
Just for the record, the Bible states that there's darkness in the heavens for a half an hour, and it says that the stars no longer give their light, and it says there's silence. So I think the stars are sonoluminescence. That's what it looks like. Frequency in a medium, creating a cavitation.
Well, you are free to indulge in that. In the meantime, we're trying to get our new friend here to kind of understand that there's no burning balls of gas in
What is
vacuum.
the sun then?
I have no idea. It's a bright light in the sky.
Is that a question, Proof?
I think that the sun is polarized from the inside to the outside.
So what? Wait.
Thank you.
Look, dude, enough with your speculation, dude. We're not here for that.
Damn,
Yo,
man was
think
trying
about
to
it, brother.
explain what
Think
was the sun, and he got muted.
Think about it
That's
like
a
this.
lame-ass news.
Dude, this thing, like, we're trying to have a conversation with this dude about empirical evidence, and we're getting speculation. Fuck that shit.
Yeah, is there anything that we, like, what experiment could we do to possibly prove what the sun is? Scientifically, by using the science, the scientific method.
What can't be done because science only has to do with cause and effect, not what is.
Modern cosmology is just a postmodern religion without a deity.
I think he ran away.
Probably a good idea.
They do have a G word that they seem to refer to like a deity.
Heretic, dude, when you come in here, like, leave the speculations at the door. We got Sundays for. If we're going to engage somebody and talk to them about the actual topic and physics and stuff, don't go wandering off into your worldview, your paradigm. Not helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and the reason is, if we go down deal with everybody's pet fucking project, we're literally going to go nowhere. We're just going to be talking frickin' Alice in Wonderland shit to the end of time. Well, don't get your pinkies hurt because it's not personal. Policy. It's how we've been rolling for a few years now. We don't entertain everybody's pet fucking project. Right? We've designated a date for that. It's called Speculation Sunday. Wherever we are, if we're in this one, the politics or the home server. And Sunday, speculate to your heart's content. Not everybody likes that, but it's a diplomatic move. Let's put it that way. We gotta give people something. But we're just trying to deal with what can be proven, right? What can we actually prove? What's the evidence? Like we can all sit here and imagine the way it could be, should be. That's endless.